Բարի երեկո։ Արցախի հանրային հեռուստատեսության
Good evening. Today I am joined by renowned sociologist Georgi Derluguian, who is a professor at the New York University, Abu Dhabi.
ով դասավանդում է Աբու Դաբի Նյու Յորքի համալսարանում։ Good afternoon, Mr. Derluguian. I thank you very much for accepting our invitation and joining us on Artsakh Public Television today.
Good evening.
Mr. Derluguian, a year has passed since the Turkey-backed Azerbaijani aggression against Artsakh that caused the country huge human, territorial and material losses. Some people blame the current government, the others former administrations for this defeat. Some people go even further for conspiracy explanations. But still, there is no clear understanding of what happened in 2020. What would you say, at what stage are Artsakh and Armenia today?
You asked at least two big questions. First of all, about conspiracy theories. It's very difficult to see any conspiracy or any intrigue to a successful end. Look at Kazakhstan now. Right? Even Russian peacekeepers do not claim there was an internal conspiracy, and there was a failure of the regime which had been looking so firmly in power just a week ago. Such things happen, and most of conspiracies fail. It doesn't mean that there are no conspiracies. Last year definitely there was a conspiracy between the regimes in Baku and in Ankara, conspiracy to bring additional troops from Syria and so forth. Why did it succeed? It did not succeed, first of all. What you have to realize. Had it succeeded, there would be no Artsakh Public Television today. I'm sorry to say, but I'm very glad that you exist. This means that that conspiracy did not succeed. You are still there. You are flying the same flag of Artsakh, and you even have your armed forces. Pashpanutun Banak is there, whatever is the situation. Second, it was clear for a very long time that any static defense is doomed in the longer run. Well, remember, the Mannerheim line in Finland in 1940, Maginot line in France, that all static defenses, where the troops cannot move front and cannot abandon their positions and move back, they are always breached somewhere. It's like a wall. There will be a crack in the wall. It will be found. That this situation has persisted for over 25 years is the question to every leader who had been in power during those years. Why nothing was done about it? What could be done is a different question. However, this is a situation when everyone is to blame, thinking that you are living next to a very aggressive, fairly big enemy state. How could you not prepare?
Mr. Derluguian, as you have mentioned, Artsakh is still there raising its flag. What can and should Artsakh do to increase its role in these new realities?
Live successfully and normally. As long as there is Artsakh, you are alive. As long as there are people, as long as whatever happens, you continue working in the fields, you continue teaching at schools, life must be back to normal. There must be children and families. And this is in bigger picture of geopolitics, also in the unstated interest of Russia. Unstated because it cannot be said very openly. However, the reason for the Russian troops to be in what Azerbaijan now claims to be their own territory, the reason is to protect Artsakh and its population. If there is no population, there is nothing to protect. So there must be population, and this situation is for a long time. I'm afraid, we just must live with it. There will be changes. you just saw again, to invoke Kazakhstan. Could you have imagined Armenia sending peacekeepers into the biggest Turkic state in the world? No. So Armenia, which was not helped by ODKB last year, is now helping other ODKB countries. This is how geopolitics really works in the short run. Short run is not like chess. I always repeat it. It's more like nardi. It's backgammon. And it's backgammon with 10 zar, with dice, not 2, 10, because there is America, there is Turkish regime, there is China, there are so many things, happening at the same time. And this is not a very polite game. This is a game where every player must also keep a crowbar, lom at the hand, because things happen, as you now know. You must be armed and prepared. But the best preparation is to have the civilian population and to have normal life and to make sure that you preserve political integrity, to have your own leaders, select them, and if it becomes necessary, to also bring in the new leaders. This is called democratic selection, and this is very important.
So coming back to the question of Russia, after the 44-day war, Armenians both in Artsakh and Armenia rely too much on Russia. Indeed, Russia's influence in our region has grown since 2020, but when you claim to be an independent country, you must be able to defend your country, your borders and your population on your own. What would you say? Did the Armenians misspend the idea of independence, and how would you explain these high public expectations from Russia?
Oh, that is a typical Armenian question, which is, how should I say, naive, to put it mildly. Tell me, is Japan or Germany independent state?
Yes.
Do you realize how many American troops are there? South Korea, is it a real state or is it half a country? Because there is North Korea, correct? And do you realize how many American troops are there in South Korea? Yet, obviously, economically and socially and politically, it's a very successful country. It's just half a country. It's not a whole Korea. So there are many such precedents in the world. And in fact, totally independent survival is when you are entirely surrounded on all sides and everything goes into just your survival. There is a country next door which exists like that for the last 40 years. It is Iran. But what is happening with the Iranian economy? There is another country very near to us. It's Israel. And Israel depends very mightily on American aid, has been dependent for now almost 70 years. So who is more successful and which side do you choose? So the problem is not about doing everything yourself. Azerbaijan is not doing everything themselves either. The problem is in navigating your alliances. And here, Armenia, and by implication Artsakh, have actually very interesting position to play, because Armenia historically is close to Russia. Of course, Armenia is also extremely important, and just look at the map, extremely important in for the Russian position in the South Caucasus, because otherwise there would be a continuum of Turkey into Azerbaijan, and there would be no need for Russia in this part of the world. And at the same time, notice, French politicians running for president come to visit Armenia and even Artsakh. Not many Armenian politicians risk visiting Artsakh now, but the French do come. And this is not a small country. Mind it, it's France. And there is definitely support in many other countries in the world. And typically you think about the West, but there is India, for instance, precisely because Pakistanis appeared on the opposite side among your enemies. Who could have thought Artsakh might be at war with Pakistanis? But this means that big India comes from the other side. This is big politics. And we are past the time when Artsakh could feel small and somewhere isolated. You have to create your own personnel. You have to train your people in thinking more globally. And it's not only for the political personnel. It is for everyone. You have to realize, where do you live? And that life goes on. Life is still very much possible. And I would very much wish you success in building this life. It is possible to have a success.
Mr. Derluguian, let's move on Artsakh-Armenia relations. Recent public statements by President Pashinyan and President Harutyunyan showed the differences of Yerevan's and Stepanakert visions of Artsakh's future. Although the government of Armenia financially helps Artsakh, the Armenian diplomacy seems to skip the status of Artsakh and the need for the occupation of Artsakh territories. Add to this, as you have mentioned, no public high-ranking officials of Armenian government, including Prime Minister and President, have visited Artsakh since the November ceasefire. How would you elaborate this situation? Is it Armenia's weakness or unwillingness to continue the struggle that explains the situation?
This is the question which Armenia, we are speaking English to each other, notice it. And I don't know what is going on exactly in their minds. I'm trying to see what might be the next move. What we realize, that the present administration has a shortage of skilled personnel. It happens quite often, with the revolutionary regimes. The question is, how quickly are they learning? And what are they learning? On the other hand, it is also very important that the people in Artsakh itself must learn, and very quickly learn, what is changing in the world, what are their possibilities of participating in this change. There are not very many, honestly speaking, because Artsakh is small, isolated, it lost the war, and it is protected. Protection by peacekeepers is both enabling, it helps you because you are under protection, actually, probably more than many Armenians in Sunik. However, at the same time, it also prevents further changes in the situation, which could be sometimes maybe to the benefit of or some people might think, that we might gain, we might gain something back. We could have a more proactive policy. No, you cannot at this point, So now you have to very soberly recognize, so what is going on and where you can make a difference. And difference is primarily, where you can be effective, is in setting up your internal affairs to make sure that there are competent, educated, world open leaders at all levels in Artsakh, and the people are determined to make sure that there is normal life. As long as there is normal life, we have a hope. In Armenia, there will be changes. As I said, this is the year of changes. Last year was the year of survival, 2021, almost literally because of COVID pandemic, but also because the political system had to survive and so many other things. Now, when I said in December in one of the interviews that 2022 will be the year of change, I did not realize, honestly, that change could come so abruptly like in Kazakhstan. And it remains to be seen, what is going to change. But Kazakhstan shows something very important about the future of Azerbaijan, as you realize, because they are very similar regimes. In Azerbaijan, there is a regime, which managed to destroy its opposition. But it's entirely vested in a ruling family. So this is how ruling families get exhausted. Ilham Aliyev so far is not as old as Nursultan Nazarbayev was. But something always happens to this kind of regimes, and you must just be prepared at any moment. It could last 10 years, it could be overthrown tomorrow. Something might happen. Something might happen in Turkey, which is intricately connected to Baku regime. So we shall see, with the deterioration of economy and social tensions in Turkish Republic, what is going to happen in Azerbaijan. So we must be watching, we must be alert. Armenia is playing much less of a role there. The biggest role is you yourselves and kind of the general situation in the world and in the region. And the general situation is beginning to change more to your advantage. I can see more of your advantages as I can see that your enemies are being constrained. And this is going to be a lasting situation. What I'm stressing here, that sometimes people ask me, how is it going to end? It's not going to end. Life is life. This is our life. This is how we are going to exist in the coming years. Let's make sure that it is more normal life than it would be otherwise. Let's make an effort.
And perhaps my last question. Mr. Derluguian, the most common challenge that everyone faces today in Artsakh, alongside security concerns, of course, is uncertainty. The uncertainty of future, particularly what will happen if Russian peacekeeping forces leave Artsakh in 2025. Is this sense of uncertainty is natural? Is it typical to post-war societies, or is it a search for someone to solve our problems for us? What would you say about this?
Neither nor. The question, as you formulated it, reflects probably conversations in Armenian society, or even more in Facebook. And my old slogan, get out of Facebook, stop reading it. Because these are mostly rumors. These are people who otherwise would not be heard, but suddenly they want to be heard, and they're saying a lot of basically nonsense, because this is not how real politics operates, either or. It's either we take our fate in our hands. No, I already mentioned Germany and Israel and South Korea. You navigate the world as it is. And on the other hand, you have to behave like responsible adults, seeing and listening to what is being said and what is not being said, because adult people do not say these things aloud. In 4 years from now, how do you imagine Russians leaving Artsakh unless there is something terrible like 1991 collapse happening in Russia itself? I can more easily imagine now serious trouble happening within Turkey than in Russia. Russia is so far skillfully navigating the economic and geopolitical problems that it is facing. It is facing very serious odds. And Artsakh is not the most prominent of these challenges to Russia, because there are other countries on the Russian perimeter. We're not going to speak about them now, but you must understand again, there are things about which politicians and adult people do not speak aloud. However, they must think about it. How do you imagine Russia abandoning Artsakh and therefore abandoning its last foothold in the South Caucasus, very soon abandoning Armenia? On the other hand, how do you imagine that Russia could allow another war, be it even a liberation war from the Armenian side? No. So we are very much stuck. These kind of situations are kind of a permanent temporary situation. It's forever, временно, но навсегда. So this is a situation when new security configuration would be formed eventually, and there is a struggle around which countries would it be formed? Around Turkey, around Russia, America, Europe. And Artsakh, interestingly enough, is in a situation where the preferences of, say, Russian policy, and curiously enough, European Union, for that matter, or even the United States, are on one side, because they don't want to see ethnic cleansing in Artsakh, because victory for Azerbaijan would mean ethnic cleansing. They don't want to see a reward for conquest. For a long time, European diplomats have been repeating that there is no military solution. And if they see a military solution, which means killing lots of people, then this is a major failure, not just for diplomacy, but for the entire post-1945 world order, where conquest was not supposed to happen. So there is a very strange situation when nobody can say that very much aloud, because otherwise, this is not acceptable in world politics. I can say that because I'm not a diplomat, I'm not an official. I occupy no government position whatsoever in any country. I am just a teacher of history and sociology at a private university. And therefore, I can say what they cannot say, that what happened a year ago was unexpected moment of tragedy. It took time to stop it. It took some very, very mysterious effort. Have you ever thought, why Turkish-Azerbaijani alliance stopped short of storming Stepanakert? Why they stopped? Why do you still exist? What kind of argument was deployed there? Because why did this war start is obvious. Why did it last 44 days is also rather clear, because although why Azerbaijan continued sustaining casualties at the rate they have begs a question, and the answer probably is because they were not alone, and because probably not they were not conducting this war themselves. However, the really big question remains, and it might never be answered fully. What happened on the 9th of November? What kind of argument was brought into the table that now around Artsakh, do you realize that there are even officially, there are 4 different armies. There is the Azerbaijani army, there is the Turkish military, there are Russian peacekeepers, and there is your own self-defense forces. That's only officially. We are not mentioning Syrians, we are not mentioning Israelis. It's a mess. It's an incredible situation. But this kind of situations happen in real life. You live amidst this situation, and once again, try to make sure that you live normally. And you have this possibility. And the normal life starts with the realization inside your heads that life is more normal than we thought. We are alive. We must help the people who are in need, in trouble now, but we have prospect in life. And this is what I'm trying to show. We are alive and we have a future. There will be a future, and this future might be unpredictable in both bad ways, but also in good ways. And unpredictable things are already happening.
Mr. Derluguian, I thank you very much for your time and for this interesting discussion.
Thank you, Anush. It's a pleasure speaking to you.